Good afternoon. Welcome to another time at the book club. Uh, Having to do with the airport today and just trying to make this happen irrespective of my movement. And just be sure I'm not all right. I'm not a mute. So like onto a book. We've been reading a book by Jenny Kearn Lima, and we've gone through chapter 12 last week. This week we're going to go on to chapter 13. And we're going to be looking at
Attention, please.
yeah, so we're into chapter 13 today, and we're going to be looking at balance. You know, how does balance relate to us? And Amy here in the book talks about the need that balance is not something to be believed in, it's a lie. And I agree with her. Let's look at what she had to say, and we'll discuss some more on that in generality. And life is not about balance. It's been a myth. Talked about balance, saying that we need to balance different aspects of our life. First of all, on its own, life is not perfect, right? So let's not to have balance is to be looking for perfection out of life. And what does balance do to you as a person if you have balance? What do you gain by being balanced? Um, what like we're not here to gain balance, here for purpose, and that's what we've been driving in ever since from our other book. We looked at purpose, right? We said life is a life. Purpose is a purposeful life. It's a life of purpose, a life that is for fulfilling purpose. We've also gone ahead to talk about that. The purpose of our life is to become the fullest expression, version of all that we've been created to be. Right? That's all we're here for. We're not here for balance. We're here to fulfill purpose. We're here to be that which our Creator has made us to be in a way that we can make a difference into our world. We can leave our own dent, our own mark, our own contribution to the movement forward of humanity, of civilization. That's why we're here. We're not here for balance. Balance means nothing. Balance is mediocrity, as it were. Right? People that chase after balance end up having a life of mediocrity because they're chasing after shadows. Because for balance is not possible. And even if you get balance, you're probably lost, right? Because the intent, the purpose, the reason why we're here is not to have balance, but to fulfill purpose, right? And Amy, talked about that as something she struggled with because in her fulfilling purpose means that other things had to drop in her life. And it was more like going with a guilty conscience as to why is she failing in those areas, whereas she's making it in other areas. And that's something that pretty much breaks the heart of everyone who is fulfilling purpose or chasing after purpose, because it's almost like to get one thing, you lose in another thing. And you're wondering, are you doing everything right? How come that the success that I'm having in one area is not equated in another area? And the real question we should be asking is those areas where it's not equated, it's that what we're chasing after? Is that the goal? Is our priority, right? Life is about prioritizing the things that are most important to us, right? It's not the things that are important to other people, but the things that are important to us. But we decide those things that are important to us. Those are the things that we can be talking about, whether we're balanced or not about, but not balancing everything everyone else is expecting of us, right? We're not here to please anyone. We're here to become the fullest version of all that we've been created to be. Right? And so we have to be careful to understand our boundaries. Let's start chasing after shadows and we'll miss the very essence, the very reason why we're here. Right? And this is a quote that I started with. My plan was actually to get the original, but I obviously didn't get around to that. So, but it's still with this quote as it is in our book. And it's just talking about that when you for the price for getting anything is what you amount of life, amount of your time that you're giving in exchange for it, right? I believe that time is the what's used in the original quote by Henry David Thoreau. But time and life is pretty much the same thing. Life is your blood. Your time is your life is your blood, right? So anything you're chasing after, what you should be asking yourself, is it worth the life you're giving to it? Is it worth the time you're giving to it? Is it worth, you know, the money, the resource you're putting behind it to chase it? There's no use putting all the resource into something that does not matter. There's no use chasing after things that you don't treasure, right? A fulfilled life is a life that rightly appropriates resources, right? For you to have a fulfilled life, for you to have a life where you're going to be happy, for you to have a life of purpose, you have to understand the things that your life are about, right? And rightly allocate the resources available to you to chase after the things that you have in your front burner, right? Our resources are limited. Our energy is limited. So our right appropriation of our resource, the right use of our energy is appropriating them, allocating them to chase after the things that we have decided are the priorities for our life. Other than that, we begin to waste energy, we begin to waste resources, right? Uh, if we're going to be happy, if we're going to fulfill purpose, if we're going to get all that our life yearns for, then we have to be people that rightly manage energy, the resource that is available to us. Otherwise, we'll just be chasing after shadows. We're supposed to be people that measure in the majors and minor in the minors, right? And that we have to be the one deciding that, because our life needs to be one that is lived from inside out, not outside in, right? We decide ahead of time what are the things I want to take as a priorities in my life, what are the things I want to measure in, and I rightly appropriate resource energy to those things, because my resource is limited, my energy is limited, right? So if I just dissipate it, then I'm being wasteful. I'm not getting the returns for the energy that I'm giving out, right? So that is critical, to ahead of time know the things we want to focus on and rightly appropriate resource energy to chase after them, right? And Amy talked about meeting Meg Whitman, while she was trying to answer that question for herself, uh, as to why is it that should our life be chasing after balance or not, right? And Meg rightly answered, right, because something has to give for everything. In economics, we'll call it opportunity cost. There's a cost for the things we have chosen to make priority in our life. For every choice that we make, there is an opportunity cost. The cost of making a choice is the things that we are replacing it with, because we all have 24 hours, right? 24 hours is only enough to do a certain number of things, right? And what we do in those 24 hours is at the cost of the things we could not do or the things we did not do. So we have to ascertain in our hearts then that what we do are the things we want to do, not the things someone made us do, right? But the things that would move our life forward, that will press us, lead us in the direction of our purpose, direction of our destiny, direction of the harvest that we're looking for, right? It's not just about dissipating energy, right? Every time, every resource, every energy we put in is a seed, right? And we have to then be ahead of time, be proud of the harvest that we're expecting by reason of the seed that we're sowing, by reason of the energy that we're putting in, by reason of the resource that we're putting in, right? Because like Jim Brown would say, right, when it comes to the time of harvest, we have to be matured enough to know that our harvest is as a result of the seed that was sown. We are responsible for the harvest that we're getting. It's not what someone else gave to us, but it's the thing that we attracted towards ourselves by reason of the seed that was sowed, right? It's not what someone did to us, it's what we did to ourselves. So ahead of time, we have to decide, what harvest do I want? and based on the harvest I want, then sow appropriately the resource that I need to get the harvest that I want, right? And that just means that something has to give, because we can't do everything, right? And we have to just be sure that what is costing us to do what we are doing is no more valuable than what we are doing. And it goes on here, and in the books talks about that the things we focus on are the price of the other things that we then can't give our time and energy to focus on, right? Because we have limited resources, we have limited energy. So whatever we have spent, what we have on, we're doing it at the expense of the things we cannot do, right? So that's why we need ahead of a time to know our purpose, right? We need to know ahead of a time the end that we want, right? So that we can rightly appropriate, rightly channel our energy, our resource to get that which we desire, right? And she was just talking about Meg here, that she made that decision knowingly, and we also need to. That's why we talk about living intentionally, not living just by I feel like this way or that. Our lives needs to be intentional. We have to be intentionally moving towards what we want, right? We need to lock into that which the end that we want, so that would influence what we do today or not do today, so that we can get that which we are looking for, right? Uh, you know, and it just goes on and say that, I'm just going to jump onto the next. And Jaime goes on and says that in that moment, right, when she got that revelation, that understanding, she realized, right, that she needed to do some major soul searching, right, and she was about what is right, and that's what we talked about, right. You need to ask yourself what is right for you, not necessarily what is right for everybody, right? Um, and like she said here, the words I've said, all right, whether we like it or not, we can do everything. We cannot be everything. We can't do everything. We cannot be everything to everybody. We can only do a certain amount of thing with the limited energy that we have, with the limited resource that we have, right? So we need to make sure that that is channeled right to get us the end that we're looking for, right? It's impossible to even try to do it or be everything to anybody. It makes you just a prisoner, right? And pretty much. And I just looked up on a few of these things to close this, talking about the meter of balance, and the need for us to measure in the measures and minor in the minors, lock our minds to what we want and know that focusing on what we want means that we have to give up on some other things, right? We just have to be settled in our mind that what we want are truly the major things in our lives, right?
This is to become a person that's to be mindful of their love at their own times.
So the first thing we talk about here is that we need to pursue fulfillment rather than balance. Like we started with, right? Balance is nothing. Balance means nothing, right? All right. We need to learn to say no more often, right? And we need to lean forward. We need to move our lives forward towards the purpose that we're looking for, and we need to get used to being uncomfortable, right? Because for us, all that moves our lives forward is not found in the comfort zone. It's all found in a place other than our comfort zone. There's no growth in the comfort zone, right? We need to push towards our goals. That's what we're looking for, right? And we need to accept risk and responsibilities that comes with the territory of growth, right? We need to live in the present and be off balance and purpose. That means we need to be intentional about our lives and push ourselves in the direction of that which we have decided are the major things in our lives, right? Obviously, we need to manage our energy because it's limited, right? We need to manage our physical energy. We need to manage our emotional energy. We need to manage our focus, our mental energy, and our event spirit, right? Our purpose, right? And it's not about managing the time that we have, which is also good, right? But the key, well, let me not use, maybe I just take away not managing our time, right? We need to manage the resource that we have. Obviously, time is one of it, but probably more important than time is our energy, our life, and our time is also part of that. Also, you know, so we need to measure in the measure, minor in the minor. Yeah, we're just talking about balance, the meat of balance. Just trying to emphasize that the reason why we're here is not to gain balance, but to fulfill purpose. You know, life is not about gaining balance. It's about uh, focusing our life on the purpose, on fulfilling purpose. You know, uh, running after the things that matter to us, and not be held captive by the things that do not matter to us. And understanding that if we do that, it means that some things will have to give way. There are some things we will not be able to do and be comfortable with that because we're all limited, right? We only have 24 hours in a day. There's only so much you can do in 24 hours. If you chase after the things that are important to you, there'll be some things that you cannot do. And there's nothing wrong with that.